Welcome back to Stamps Old World US. Today we are taking a close look at a beautiful and historic United States postage stamp, the famous 4-cent Martha Washington stamp. At first glance, it may appear to be just another vintage American stamp, but collectors know that every classic U.S. stamp has its own story, historical importance, and market value. Whether you are a beginner collector, an experienced philatelist, or someone who has discovered an old stamp collection at home, this video will help you understand what makes this stamp special and how much it can be worth in today's collector market. The stamp you are seeing features Martha Washington, the First Lady of the United States and one of the most respected women in American history. Her portrait has appeared on only a limited number of U.S. postage stamps, making every Martha Washington issue an important part of American philatelic history. The elegant brown color, detailed engraving, decorative border, and the large numeral 4 at the bottom corners give this stamp a classic appearance that collectors admire even after more than a century. This particular stamp belongs to the early 20th century definitive issues of the United States. These stamps were produced in very large quantities for everyday postal use, but today many surviving examples have become collectible because of their age, condition, printing varieties, and postal history. Millions were originally printed, but finding a well-preserved example with fresh color, perfect centering, and original gum is much more difficult than many people realize. One of the first things collectors examine is the condition of the stamp. Condition is often the biggest factor in determining value. A stamp with bright color, sharp perforations, no tears, no creases, no stains, and excellent centering is always worth much more than an average example. Even two stamps that look almost identical can have dramatically different prices depending on their overall condition. Professional grading services often assign numerical grades, and high-grade examples usually command premium prices at auctions. Another important factor is whether the stamp is mint or used. A mint stamp still has its original gum on the back and has never been used for postage. Used stamps show cancellation marks from postal use. For many classic United States issues, both mint and used examples are collected, but mint stamps in excellent condition generally bring the highest prices. Collectors also pay close attention to perforations and watermark varieties. Certain printings are much scarcer than others. Small differences in paper, perforation size, or watermark can change a stamp's value from just a few dollars to several $100s. That is why experienced collectors always use specialized stamp catalogs and measuring tools before determining a final value. Now let's discuss today's market value in U.S. dollars. An average used example of the 4-cent Martha Washington stamp in ordinary condition usually sells for around $1 to $10. A cleaner example, with better centering and attractive appearance, may sell for $15 to $40. Well-preserved mint examples with original gum commonly range between $40 and $150, depending on the exact variety and condition. High-grade certified copies may sell for $200 to $600 or even more. Rare printing varieties, exceptional graded examples, plate number singles, or unusual errors have been known to achieve prices ranging from $1,000 to several $1,000s at specialized philatelic auctions. Collectors should remember that not every old stamp is automatically valuable. The actual selling price depends on collector demand, rarity, certification, and overall preservation. Sometimes a common stamp in flawless condition is worth more than a scarcer stamp with heavy damage. This is why careful storage and professional evaluation are extremely important. One fascinating aspect of this stamp is the remarkable engraving quality. During the early 20th century, American stamp production relied on master engravers who created incredibly detailed portraits using steel plates. Every tiny line on Martha Washington's portrait reflects the craftsmanship of that era. Even with modern printing technology, many collectors believe that these engraved stamps possess an artistic beauty that is difficult to duplicate today. Historical significance also adds to this stamp's appeal. Martha Washington became one of the most recognizable women in early American history. As the wife of George Washington, she played an important role during the founding years of the United States. Her appearance on U.S. postage stamps symbolizes the nation's respect for its earliest leaders and their families. Because of this historical connection, these stamps remain popular with collectors around the world. If you discover one of these stamps in an old family album, resist the temptation to clean or repair it. Cleaning a stamp almost always reduces its value. Instead, place it in a protective stamp mount or stockbook and keep it away from moisture, sunlight, and excessive handling. Using stamp tongs instead of fingers helps preserve both the paper and the perforations. Many collectors also search for stamps on their original envelopes, known as covers. A well-preserved cover with clear postal markings can sometimes be worth significantly more than the loose stamp alone, especially if it was mailed from a historically important location or during a notable event. Postal history continues to be one of the fastest-growing areas of stamp collecting. Another interesting feature is that auction prices can vary greatly from year to year. When demand increases among collectors, values often rise. Certified high-grade examples are especially attractive because buyers have confidence in their authenticity and condition. This makes professional certification an important consideration for anyone who believes they own an exceptional example. If your stamp appears unusually well-centered, has vivid original color, perfect perforations, and no visible faults, it could be worthwhile to have it examined by a professional stamp expert. Authentication and grading not only confirm the identity of the stamp, but can also increase buyer confidence if you ever decide to sell it. For beginning collectors, this stamp represents an excellent introduction to classic United States Philately. It combines beautiful engraving, historical importance, affordable entry-level pricing, and the possibility of discovering more valuable varieties. Many experienced collectors started their journey with stamps just like this one before building collections worth thousands of dollars. Stamp collecting is much more than simply buying and selling old paper. Every stamp tells a story about history, culture, politics, transportation, communication, and the people who shaped a nation. The 4-cent Martha Washington stamp is a perfect example of how a small piece of paper can preserve an important chapter of American history for future generations. Next up, the iconic 4-cent Abraham Lincoln United States postage stamp. At first glance, this may seem like an ordinary old stamp, but for collectors and historians, it represents a fascinating piece of American history. Its value today depends on several important factors, including its condition, printing variety, age, and collector demand. Stay with me until the end, because the market value of some examples may surprise you. The stamp features the portrait of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. Lincoln is remembered as one of the greatest leaders in American history for preserving the Union during the Civil War and issuing the Emancipation Proclamation. Because of his historical importance, his portrait has appeared on numerous U.S. postage stamps over the years, making Lincoln one of the most collected figures in American philately. The 4-cent Lincoln stamp was issued during the mid-20th century as part of the regular definitive series used for everyday mail. Millions of these stamps were printed to meet postal demand, allowing people across the country to send letters at the standard first-class postal rate of that period. Although large quantities were produced, the passage of time has reduced the number of stamps surviving in excellent condition, making high-quality examples much more desirable among collectors. One of the first things collectors examine is the overall condition. A stamp with bright original color, clean paper, sharp perforations, and no tears, creases, thin spots, or stains is worth considerably more than one showing heavy wear. Centering is another important factor. If the design is perfectly centered within the perforations, collectors generally pay a premium. Even two stamps from the same printing can differ significantly in value simply because one has superior centering and eye appeal. Another major factor is whether the stamp is mint or used. Mint examples that still have their original gum on the reverse side are usually more valuable than used copies. Used examples are identified by cancellation marks that indicate they traveled through the postal system. However, a lightly canceled stamp with excellent appearance is often preferred by collectors over one with heavy ink markings covering Lincoln's portrait. Collectors also study printing details carefully. Different printings may have variations in paper, gum, perforation measurements, or tagging used for automatic mail processing. Certain varieties are scarcer than others and command much higher prices in today's market. Professional philatelists rely on specialized catalogs and expert certificates to identify these valuable differences accurately. Now let's discuss the current market value in US dollars. A common used 4-cent. Abraham Lincoln stamp in average condition generally sells for around $0.25 to $3. Better preserved used examples with attractive centering can sell between 5 and 20 mint. Never hinged copies are usually worth $10 to $50, depending on condition and issue. Exceptionally well-centered certified examples can reach $75 to $300. Rare plate blocks, error varieties, imperforate examples, printing mistakes, or unusual postal history items may sell for $500 to over $2,000, especially when offered through specialized stamp auctions. It is important to understand that not every Lincoln stamp is rare. Because millions were printed, most examples remain affordable. However, collectors are always searching for exceptional condition, scarce varieties, and authenticated errors. These special characteristics are what separate an ordinary stamp from one that becomes highly valuable in the philatelic marketplace. The engraving on this stamp is another reason collectors admire it. The detailed portrait captures Abraham Lincoln's thoughtful expression with remarkable precision. The fine engraved lines, bold lettering, and classic design reflect the outstanding craftsmanship of the United States Bureau of Engraving and Printing. Even decades after its release, the stamp remains a beautiful example of traditional American stamp production. If you happen to discover this stamp in an old family collection, avoid cleaning or repairing it. Cleaning can permanently damage the paper and significantly reduce its value. Instead, store it in a protective stamp album or archival quality mount away from moisture, heat, and direct sunlight. Always handle valuable stamps with stamp tongs rather than your fingers to prevent damage from natural skin oils. Some collectors are especially interested in stamps that remain attached to their original envelopes, known as postal covers. A cover with a clear postmark from an important historical location or event can be worth considerably more than the loose stamp itself. Postal history continues to be one of the most exciting and rewarding areas of stamp collecting. Professional grading can also increase buyer confidence. If your Lincoln stamp appears perfectly centered, has fresh color, intact perforations, and no visible faults, it may be worth submitting to a recognized philatelic grading service. Certified examples often attract stronger prices because buyers know exactly what they are purchasing. The popularity of Abraham Lincoln ensures that these stamps remain in demand among collectors worldwide. Lincoln collectors, American history enthusiasts, and traditional philatelists all appreciate these classic issues. While most examples are inexpensive, exceptional specimens continue to perform well in the collector market, especially when accompanied by expert certification. Stamp collecting is more than simply owning old pieces of paper. Every stamp tells a story about the people, events, and history of its time. The 4-cent Abraham Lincoln stamp reminds us of one of America's greatest presidents while preserving an important chapter in the history of United States Postal Service. Whether your stamp is worth just a few dollars or several hundred, it remains a meaningful collectible with lasting historical significance. Next up, the beautiful United States 4-cent George Washington postage stamp. At first glance, it may appear to be an ordinary green stamp, but collectors know that even a common-looking stamp can have an interesting story and, in some cases, a surprising value. If you have one of these stamps in your collection or recently found it in an old family album, stay with me until the end because we'll discuss its history, collector demand, and its estimated market value in today's U.S. dollar market. This classic stamp features the portrait of George Washington, the first president of the United States and one of the most important figures in American history. Washington's image has appeared on more United States postage stamps than any other American leader, symbolizing his lasting legacy and his role in the founding of the nation. His calm side profile, surrounded by an elegant oval frame and detailed engraved background, gives this stamp a timeless appearance that continues to attract collectors from around the world. The 4-cent George Washington stamp was issued as part of a definitive series that was produced for everyday postal use. During the time of its release, millions of these stamps were printed to meet the growing demand for mailing letters across the United States. Because they were used so frequently, many surviving examples today show heavy postal wear. However, examples that remain in outstanding condition have become much more desirable among collectors. One of the most important factors influencing the value of this stamp is its condition. Professional collectors carefully examine the centering of the design, the sharpness of the perforations, the freshness of the color, and the quality of the paper. A stamp with bright green color, perfectly balanced margins, clean perforations, and no tears, folds, stains, or thin spots will always command a higher price than an average example. Even a slight improvement in centering can significantly increase the value of a classic United States stamp. Collectors also distinguish between mint and used examples. A mint stamp is one that has never been used for postage and still retains its original gum on the back. These examples are generally scarcer because many stamps from this period entered postal circulation. Used examples display cancellation marks that indicate they traveled through the mail system. Lightly canceled copies with an attractive appearance are often preferred by collectors over heavily canceled examples that obscure the design. Another fascinating aspect of this issue is the existence of different printings and varieties. Some stamps may differ in paper type, gum, perforation measurements, or watermark. While these differences may seem minor to the average person, they can dramatically affect market value. Specialized stamp catalogs list these varieties separately, and expert collectors carefully identify each one before determining its worth. Now let's discuss the estimated market value of this 4-cent George Washington stamp in today's collector market. A common used example in average condition generally sells for around $3 to $5. A cleaner used copy with attractive centering and minimal cancellation can bring $10 to $30. Mint. Examples with original gum usually sell between $25 and $100, depending on preservation and the exact variety. Exceptionally well-centered certified examples may achieve $150 to $500 at auctions. Rare printing varieties. Plate number blocks, imperforate examples, major printing errors, or authenticated color varieties have sold for $1,000 to several $1,000s, especially when offered through respected philatelic auction houses. It is important to remember that not every old George Washington stamp is valuable simply because of its age. The majority of surviving examples are common and affordable. However, collectors are always willing to pay premium prices for stamps with exceptional quality, rare varieties, or outstanding historical significance. This is why professional grading and authentication are recommended for stamps that appear to be in unusually fine condition. The engraving on this stamp is one of its most admired features. During the golden age of American stamp production, master engravers created incredibly detailed portraits using steel plates. Every line of George Washington's face, hair, clothing, and the decorative frame was engraved with extraordinary precision. Even after decades, these engraved details remain remarkably sharp, making this stamp a miniature work of art as well as a collectible piece of history. Another reason collectors appreciate this stamp is its connection to the development of the United States postal system. Millions of letters carrying this stamp traveled across America, delivering personal messages, business correspondence, legal documents, and family news. Every surviving example represents a small piece of that communication history, connecting modern collectors with everyday life from another era. If you own one of these stamps, avoid trying to clean it or improve its appearance. Cleaning can permanently damage the paper and reduce its value significantly. Instead, store it in an archival quality stamp album or protective mount, away from sunlight, moisture, dust, and excessive heat. Handle valuable stamps only with stamp tongs to prevent fingerprints or accidental damage to the delicate paper. Collectors also enjoy searching for this stamp on original envelopes known as postal covers. A well-preserved cover with a clear postmark from a historically important city or event may be worth much more than the loose stamp alone. Postal history remains one of the most exciting areas of stamp collecting because every cover tells a unique story about the journey of a letter through the American postal system. Professional grading services have become increasingly important in today's stamp market. If your George Washington stamp has outstanding centering, original gum, bright color, and no visible faults, it may be worth submitting it for certification. Certified stamps often sell for higher prices because buyers have confidence in both their authenticity and condition. The Popularity of George Washington ensures that these stamps remain among the most widely collected United States issues. Whether you are building a presidential collection, a classic American collection, or simply preserving family heirlooms, this stamp represents an excellent addition. While many examples are affordable, rare varieties and top-quality specimens continue to increase in value as collector demand remains strong. Stamp collecting is much more than a hobby. It is a journey through history. Every stamp represents a moment in time, reflecting the people, culture, technology, and events of its era. The 4-cent George Washington stamp is a perfect reminder of America's rich postal heritage and the enduring legacy of its first president. Whether your stamp is worth only a few dollars or several $100s, it remains an important historical collectible that deserves careful preservation. Thank you for watching. Stamps Old World US. I hope you enjoyed learning about the history and current market value of this beautiful 4-cent George Washington postage stamp. If you have more vintage United States stamps in your collection, compare their condition carefully because small differences can have a major impact on value. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to Stamps Old World US, and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest videos featuring rare stamps, auction discoveries, hidden treasures, and updated market values from around the world. Thank you for watching, happy collecting, and I look forward to seeing you in the next exciting stamp adventure.